they just had a massive announcement. They approved 3 Ethereum ETFs, which is going to be the first. This is the first ever of its kind. There's never been an Ethereum ETF that has been approved. Yeah, I think you brought that up to me the other day. Crazy how altcoins now have over a $1 trillion market cap. Bitcoin's over $1 trillion. Altcoins are over $1 trillion market cap. Now, total that the cryptocurrency market is over $2 trillion market cap. I think you last said it was around $2.2 trillion, something around there. Yeah. But anyways, welcome to my show, guys. We go live every day at 9 a.m. Eastern time talking about the stock market, financial news, cryptocurrencies, everything like that. So if you're new here, make sure to subscribe. Tune in at 9 a.m. Eastern time every day to check out what's going on. But I don't know if you guys saw, most people have, but Coinbase recently had its IPO, and there had been a lot of talk about insiders actually dumping nearly $5 billion worth of stock shortly after the listing within, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, just within that 3-day time period after its IPO. And this is a pretty big deal. So a lot of people started to get worried, thinking, well, these insiders, like the CFO, sold 255,000 shares at a price of $388. The CEO, he sold 749,999 shares for about $291 million. And people are starting to get worried. They're like, well, CEO selling, CFO is selling, and they're taking a lot of money off the table. So some of the reports weren't quite 100% accurate. While in total, there's about $5 billion sold from insiders. First of all, a lot of these people are going to have to pay so much in taxes. They're going to be selling a lot of this for tax liabilities. But also, Coinbase since its last round of funding has grown exponentially. So a lot of these people probably want to take some profits. They want to secure some money, diversify their investments, because right now, most of these people, if you just think about it realistically, all of their money is probably like 99% of their money was in Coinbase. So they're selling part of it. But the way that these reports made it sound like is it looks like for example, Brian Armstrong, he's the CEO. It says he sold about 750,000 shares, and it says he only retained 300,000 shares after selling them, according to his Form 4 disclosure. But in reality, a lot of these C-level executives, most of the money they have has not yet vested. They're like unvested stock options. And so it doesn't really represent their total holdings. So while it may only look like, the CEO only has, a couple 100,000 shares left, the CFO sold a lot. In reality, a lot of the money that they have with Coinbase is still unvested options, which do account for a majority of their holdings. So in reality, like all of these C-level executives sold less than 10% of their entire holdings. And so really, very small portion of what they did own. Remember, now Coinbase is like around an $85 billion company. CEO sold 290 million. CFO sold, tens of millions as well in dollars. But in reality, that's not a large portion of their stake. They have a lot of unvested stock options. They're going to continue to get paid in stock options as the company, over time. So really, there's nothing to worry about there. And if you're looking at major institutions buying it, like ARK Invest is scooping up hundreds of millions of dollars of Coinbase. And really, in my opinion, I think Coinbase is a great company to own. If you want to have any exposure to cryptocurrency market, Coinbase is the crypto exchange. And any company that you like, if you are betting on crypto in the future, digital assets of any kind, well, then Coinbase is really, in my mind, a no-brainer. And I don't think there's anything to worry about with these C-level executives selling about $5 billion worth of stock, because, a lot of some people who invested, maybe some institutions, some insiders, their goal is to get a return on their investment. And at some point, they need to take some capital off the table. That's the goal. So a lot of these people, they wanted to take some money off the table. And in reality, though, it just represents a small portion of their investment. Speaking of big news with crypto, Canada, they just had a massive announcement. They approved 3 Ethereum ETFs, which is going to be this is the first ever of its kind. There's never been an Ethereum ETF that has been approved. Now in Canada, they're going to officially have 3 different Ethereum ETFs, which will be launching in the coming days in, third week of April 2021. And then also they already have 3 Bitcoin ETFs. So now they're one of the only countries where they're, really pro Bitcoin, pro Ethereum, and they've already accepted this. And these are going to be listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange. So this is big news because the US doesn't have this yet. The US doesn't have Ethereum ETFs. So big news though, because Canada is approving these 3 Ethereum ETFs. The first one is the Purpose Ethereum ETF. They already have a Purpose Bitcoin ETF, and the other one's going to be provided by CI Global Asset Management, and the third one's going to be brought from Evolve ETF. So all 3, CI Global Asset Management, Purpose Investments, and Evolve ETFs, all are going to be going live on the Toronto Stock Exchange on the same exact day. And this is really, really big news for Ethereum, crypto in general. Right now, a lot of people and the Canadian government, a lot of people are very pro Ethereum because it has a lot of use cases that Bitcoin doesn't have. Like NFTs were built on the back of Ethereum. Smart contracts were built on the back of Ethereum. Yeah, while Bitcoin is a good, the store of value, it's a good replacement for a digital gold. It doesn't have all of the flexibility and you can't customize it as much and build everything off like Ethereum. People have been able to do with Ethereum with the smart contracts and NFTs. So right now, Ethereum has a lot going for it, and moving into the future, these ETFs really opens up just crypto in general to the masses. Maybe not people who weren't exposed, maybe didn't have an account where they could buy crypto directly. Now they can invest through the stock exchanges. Also with institutional investors, now there's a lot more money that can be poured in. Previously, institutional investors, there's regulations in place where they can't buy Bitcoin or Ethereum directly. So by them having now these Ethereum ETFs, Bitcoin ETFs, they have a lot more options to get direct exposure to Bitcoin and Ethereum with already underlying Bitcoin and Ethereum purchase. So pretty exciting here. Ethereum is up a whopping 1,300% last 12 months. Bitcoin's up about 900% in the last 12 months. And with all 3 of these ETFs going live within the coming days, country's regulators in Canada seem to be very optimistic about Ethereum, Bitcoin, and just crypto in general moving forward. Speaking of Bitcoin, though, some people are saying Bitcoin is becoming the Google of crypto as Bitcoin starts to reach the next big milestone of a $1.5 trillion market cap. So right now, a market analyst at Welt, he emphasized that Bitcoin is nearing the same valuation as Google. So, Google has around a $1.5 trillion valuation. Bitcoin is getting very close to that as well. Right now, it's dropped down a little bit, but it's still above a $1 trillion market cap, around $1.1 to $1.3 trillion market cap. And what's similar between Bitcoin and Google is that Bitcoin has the strongest network effect out of all cryptocurrencies out there. It accounts for more than 51% of the total global cryptocurrency market. It has when anyone thinks of crypto, really it's synonymous with Bitcoin. They basically go hand in hand, and it's been the biggest one for a while. So same as Google. Google has dominance over the search engine market, has a massive share of video sharing and streaming sector because of their acquisition with YouTube. So it's they both have very, very large network effects. And according to this analyst, he said the exponential age, thanks to network effects, the value of Bitcoin is increasing, and with about a $1.15, $1.2 trillion market cap, almost reached the stock market value of a classic network share, Google, which is worth $1.5 trillion. So one thing to keep in mind is, No one knows if Bitcoin's going to continue to be the top player in the cryptocurrency market. Most likely it's going to be. It's not going to be the one that's going to be used for like transactions. Like, even though Tesla and other companies are already accepting it, most likely there's going to be a coin that comes out, whether that's Ethereum, whether that's Bitcoin, but most likely there's going to be something else that comes out that's not Bitcoin, that's going to be used for day-to-day transactions at some point in the future. Either way, though, JP Morgan analysts are saying that Bitcoin could reach about $150,000 this year, and they're saying the long-term upside of this is just huge, just because there's a limit on the total number of Bitcoin that'll ever be supplied. It's around 22 million Bitcoin will ever be mined, ever be in circulation. And just based on supply and demand, more money that goes into it, the higher the price of Bitcoin will be driven up, especially as large institutions start to get into it. So easily it could reach that same market cap as Google. Speaking of cryptocurrencies that have been doing extremely well lately, that have been on a roll, Dogecoin and other altcoins have been skyrocketing, even more than Ethereum, even though more than Bitcoin lately. So Dogecoin and Maker, two different altcoins, have been surging dramatically as the altcoin market cap tops $1 trillion for the first time ever. So Bitcoin, it makes up more than 50% of the market share, but now it's getting to be very, very large market share in terms of altcoins as well. Over $1 trillion market cap is a pretty significant amount of money. Right now, Dogecoin at one point was sitting around a $45 billion market cap. It's come down a little bit since then, but either way, right now we're seeing altcoins start and take off, and they've really been always mimicking the price of Bitcoin. Really all cryptocurrency, all coins out there mimic the price, mimic the charts of Bitcoin, but now we're starting to see them break out a bit more, start to accelerate and grow even faster than Bitcoin is. We've seen coins like SafeMoon, Maker, Dogecoin. We've also seen, like Cardano. We've seen Polkadot. All of these altcoins have skyrocketed, some smaller than others, but they've all skyrocketed recently, and now altcoins are really starting to steal the show. They're starting to get more attention than Bitcoin, because some people are like, oh, Bitcoin's boring now. Bitcoin doesn't have as much upside. People who are looking for fast gains, like 10, 20, 30x gains in the matter of like a couple of weeks. Well, they're not going to see that with Bitcoin, but now people are starting to find the next big altcoins out there, whether that's, whatever altcoin you're talking about. There's been so many out there that people are talking about. Obviously, like Polkadot, Cardano, those are not small, like Ripple. Those are not small by any means. So those aren't going to, have those massive, massive gains. But when you start talking about smaller coins like SafeMoon or Maker, those are much smaller, and those are what people are looking at right now. So the shift and the focus is starting to shift away from Bitcoin, away from Ethereum, and now trying to find that next big altcoin, the one that could 10, 20, 100x within a couple of weeks. But it's pretty exciting to see how altcoins now have passed that $1 trillion market cap, and they're continuing to grow. Doesn't look like they're slowing down anytime soon. But speaking of Ethereum, speaking of positive news for crypto, is that Rothschild Investment, they just bought $4.75 million an initial stake in Grayscale Ethereum Trust. And the asset manager just disclosed the other day that they purchased $4.75 million worth of it. And this is a really big deal because, first of all, they increased their position in Grayscale Bitcoin Trust by 8,000 shares. Now they're up to 38,000 total shares. And they've, purchased a pretty significant position in Grayscale Ethereum Trust. So this is a pretty big deal because it's one of the first brand named institutional asset managers to seek Ethereum exposure through Grayscale's trust product, according to regulatory filings. Right now, we're starting to see a lot of companies, a lot of institutional investors, like ETFs and investment managers, all of them are looking for like Bitcoin and some sort of exposure to crypto, whether that's through Coinbase, whether that's through, like the recent direct listing, whether that's through Bitcoin like Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. But we haven't seen many of them look for direct exposure to Ethereum. So this is pretty big news that now we're seeing Rothschild Investment. They are putting, starting to put a couple $1 million, not a huge amount, but it's starting to put a couple $1 million into an direct correlation to Ethereum, like something that follows the price of Ethereum, which is nice to see. People are starting to realize the value in Ethereum over Bitcoin and how Ethereum could overtake Bitcoin down the road as being the major and the largest crypto out there. It's not definitely going to happen, but it does have potential for this to happen. And it's just interesting to see how now some major institutional managers are starting to recognize the value of having a direct investment in Ethereum rather than just looking for direct exposure to Bitcoin. Now, something that I found very surprising was that Dogecoin actually has a very high percentage of long-term hodlers, whatever you want to call them. And this surprised me. So right now, according to this research, it says 61% of all of people who own Dogecoin have held the coin for over a year. So anyone who has been holding on to Dogecoin, out of all the Dogecoin out there, 61% of these people have held on to it for over a year. And this is really surprising because most altcoins, the ones where you'll see double-digit, triple-digit gains, these are really just quick buys, quick sells, trying to time the market. That's what a lot of people are doing. But with Dogecoin, that's not the case at all. People who own Dogecoin have owned it for a long time. Like 61% of Doge hodlers have held the coin for over a year, and this is just a little unusual in the sense that most altcoins are not like this at all, and it shows that Dogecoin, while right now, very likely it's in a bubble that's going to come down, but it shows that it's probably not going to come back down to the lows it was at before. Most likely there's been a lot of interest in it. People who have owned it for over a year. So these people are going to be, I don't think we'll ever see the same levels of Dogecoin, at least for a long time, that we saw before. Like may come down to 7 cents per coin, 5 cents per coin. Yeah, but it's never going to go below, at least for a long time, like a penny. It's just, there's too much demand for it, and it's all about supply and demand. And obviously, the demand for Dogecoin, even though it's just a meme, even though it's just a joke, obviously the demand is there. And it was very surprising to me, at least, that 61% of Doge hodlers have been holding the coin for over a year, because that's just not the case for most altcoins out there. And this has really driven the price of Dogecoin up significantly, because the people who have owned it for a long time, and then people who are now hearing about it, they're pouring more and more money in, and because everyone else is holding it, the significant portion of the supply of Dogecoin is just either in cold storage, it's not being sold, it's not on exchanges. So that's why we're also seeing the price skyrocket, because with all this attention and with a lot of people who are just holding it, well, now, it's a smaller portion, a smaller pool that people can invest in, and it's just driving the price higher and higher. Obviously Elon Musk tweeting about it does help, but the demand for Doge has really been there lately. And even though the demand has surged recently, causing it to 4x, which in the last just couple of weeks, there's been demand for Dogecoin for a while, and people who have owned it for a long time, which I found just very, very surprising. But speaking of Dogecoin, right now it is the eighth largest coin, like cryptocurrency out there in terms of market cap. It did make it as high as number 6 at one point, but right now it's around $37.6 billion in terms of market cap. So, I think we could see it continue to rise up. Long term though, obviously, there is no use for Dogecoin, so eventually it is going to come back down just because there is no long-term use for it. So at some point, whether that's 6 months, a year, 2 years, at some point, if there's no use for it, there's no practical, use case for it, it's going to come back down at some point. Crazy story I read the other day is everyone wishes, they had held on to their Dogecoin. They had bought more. And this one guy, a Dogecoin investor, he became a millionaire after putting his entire life savings into Bitcoin. He didn't make any sort of massive, crazy returns, not like, 150x his investment. But a 33-year-old Los Angeles resident, he invested all of his $188,000 life savings into Dogecoin in February, just a couple months ago. And now in the span of, let's say, 60 days, his $188,000 investment has turned into over $2 million, $2.5 million. And this, everyone wishes they were this person. Everyone wishes that they had done exactly what he had did. But, you can't win them all. But either way, this investor, he said that he put $188,000 in. He sold all of his stocks. He sold everything, all of his investments, put all the money, all the extra capital he had into Dogecoin. Obviously, at the time, it was a huge risk, a massive, massive risk. Any investment is a big risk, but especially into, let's say, Dogecoin, which has no practical use, huge risk. It was at about 4 or 5 cents per coin. He invested it. Now it's, worth over 2.5 million. So this is just huge. You like to see these stories. It's like winning the lottery. And he said currently, he has a 9-to-5 job. He has an old Toyota with over 200,000 miles on it. And he's not a financial advisor. He's just a regular guy who put money into this. He did some research for like a week. He decided to put his money, his life savings into this. Just YOLO'd it, went all in, and it turned out pretty well. He said he's not going to be selling it, at least for a year, because he wants to get, the tax benefits. If he sold it now, he'd have to pay like 50% in taxes versus if he held it for a year, he'd only have to pay 10% in taxes. So he wants tax benefits. He's going to hold it for at least a year. After a year, he's going to sell off 10% of it, and then he's going to continue to hold it. So hopefully, in a year from now, it turns out to still be as high as it is now or even higher. Hopefully he makes a bunch of money because, you only make the money once you sell it. So, I'd just be a little cautious. That's life-changing amounts of money, $2 million, $2.5 million. He said he works a 9-to-5 job. So, you just have to be careful. It is a life-changing amount of money. Could go up, could go back down. But when you're talking about something like Dogecoin, which doesn't have any practical use long-term, you got to start just thinking about, like, where's the attention? Where's all the hype? Because with these sort of investments, like with GameStop, with now Dogecoin, when there's all the attention on something, when there's a lot of hype around it, that's going to be when it's the highest. So a year from now, is there going to be just as much hype? Is there going to be just as much attention on Dogecoin? Well, if you think there is, well, then you might as well hold it. But if you don't think there's going to be as much attention, if you don't think there's going to be as many people talking about it, well, then probably you should sell it or sell at least part of it. I'm not saying sell everything, but you just have to look at how much hype, how much attention is on it. Because if you think there's going to be less attention, well, you're better off selling it now at least. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully he makes, I'm hoping he ends up making a lot of money on this. So we'll see what happens there. But no one likes to pay taxes either way. So next up is Bitcoin. Turkey, they just came out. They banned crypto payments amid their current currency crisis. So essentially what they said is that right now that in Turkey, you cannot use crypto for any form of payments in the country. After they came out with this, Bitcoin dropped pretty significantly, a couple percentage points, nothing crazy. But one thing to keep in mind is that they didn't ban buying and selling crypto. All they did ban was using it as a form of payment for e-commerce, for stores, for any sort of payment processing. You cannot pay with crypto. So while this is a big deal, still anyone in Turkey can still buy or sell cryptocurrencies, let's say on Coinbase or Binance, or they can still buy and sell them as assets or as investments, but they can't just purchase items with it. So that's what's currently going on. They said payment service providers will not be able to develop any new business models in a way that crypto assets are used directly or indirectly in the provision of payment services and electronic money issuance. This was really expected, though, because billionaire investor Ray Dalio, he fears that governments are going to continue to outlaw Bitcoin as a form of payment in dozens of countries around the world, because he said right now is that countries like to have control over the currency. They said that they like to have control over what currency is used in their country, help control inflation. And he said that every country treasures its monopoly on controlling the supply and demand of currency. They don't want the other monies to be operating or competing with their own, because then things can get out of control. And he said, so, it's like, for example, let's say all of a sudden the yuan was more popular in the US than the US dollar. Or let's say like the euro was more popular in the US than the US dollar. It just starts to get a little like governments don't really like that. They like to have their currency be on top, be the main currency in that country. And it would be the same thing with, let's say, Bitcoin or Ethereum or any other crypto out there. If Bitcoin became the dominant payment processor, well, then what would happen is, like, if Bitcoin became the dominant form of payment in the US, it'd be like, okay, you go to a store, it'd be like, do you accept Bitcoin? Do you accept US dollar? And it would start to get weird. So they want to make sure that in Turkey that they control the currency. So that's why they outlawed Bitcoin, Ethereum, crypto in general as being used as a form of payment. So we'll see what happens there if more countries continue to do it. It probably would have a negative impact on crypto, on Bitcoin, Ethereum, all currencies and all cryptocurrencies out there. Is it going to have a dramatic impact? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, but still doesn't affect in terms of investments. You can still buy, sell as like an asset or investment. So we'll see what happens. Now on to BlockCap. BlockCap is a Bitcoin mining company, and they mined 544 Bitcoin in Q1 of 2021, while Riot Blockchain mined 491. And this is pretty surprising because Riot Blockchain is one of the most well-known Bitcoin mining companies out there. They're publicly traded. The stock price has skyrocketed this year. They've done extremely well, and I had never heard of BlockCap. Maybe I don't know enough about this, but I've definitely heard of Riot. I personally invest in Riot Blockchain. And right now, BlockCap, they said that they have just acquired 32,000 Bitmain ASICs. This came pretty shortly after Riot Blockchain. Riot Blockchain also announced that they had purchased 49,000 ASICs from Bitmain. They doubled their hash rate. And this is just a big deal for Bitcoin mining in the US, because now we're seeing more and more US companies really start to pour tens of millions of dollars into Bitcoin mining operations. These firms are really investing heavily to increase their hash rates, to expand their businesses. And according to the founder and chairman of BlockCap, he said BlockCap has an aggressive growth strategy moving forward that's designed to create more jobs not only in the US but also in Texas, which is their home state where they're based, specifically in Austin, Texas. And they said that they believe there's ample room to continue to grow and expand, especially with where Bitcoin is going, with the more mining equipment they're having and everything like that. So according to the CEO of the ASIC maker, Epic, they said that North America could become a mining powerhouse for Bitcoin and crypto, but only if three key pieces come together will that be able to happen. He said, first of all, what needs to happen is there is a lot of cheap energy in the U.S., which is good. The other thing is commercial miners and a favorable political climate. There needs to be that. That is a little less, not as certain, because Joe Biden administration, they're trying to push for net zero carbon emissions, and Bitcoin mining, crypto mining in general requires a lot of energy. It consumes a lot of energy. And if, these firms continue to invest tens of millions of dollars and they want to really expand operations, we've already seen this issue in China. They outlawed Bitcoin mining in Inner Mongolia because it was just consuming too much energy and it didn't in line with their energy policy. So we'll have to see what happens with that. Another thing is just mining pools are another piece of that. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Bitcoin mining in the U.S. is continuing to grow. Right now, it represents about a 10 to 15%. 10 to 15% of Bitcoin's global hash rate is in the United States and Canada now. So continuing to grow in North America. We'll see what happens, but BlockCap and Riot blockchain are two of the big ones in the U.S., and they both mined, BlockCap a little over 500 Bitcoin, and Riot was about 500 Bitcoin in Q1 of 2021. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how that plays out. Next up is Cardano. ADA, they're calling the person who founded Cardano, he's calling Dogecoin a bubble. His name is Charles Hoskinson, and he says that Dogecoin will collapse. It's going to come down at some point. It is a bubble, and that could have broader impacts on the crypto market in general, some negative impacts, especially on all cryptocurrencies out there with regards to regulations and regulators. So Cardano leader Charles Hoskinson, he's warned that Dogecoin's recent market rally could have a very negative outcome. And he says that since Dogecoin has no practical use, down the road, since it doesn't have a large team working behind it, doesn't have a bunch of employees, doesn't have, anything like that, it's going to come crashing down. He's like Cardano, and, obviously he's going to promote himself and his company, but Cardano, Polkadot, Ethereum, all these other cryptos have large teams working behind them, and they can all be hurt by Dogecoin going up so much, because they said Dogecoin is just a meme stock. It's all about attention, all about hype, and he explained how it's like acted as a gateway for retail investors to enter the crypto ecosystem because they're seeing how people are making so much money. It's the same thing that happened with GameStop. GameStop skyrocketed, and it brought a lot of new people into the stock market that may have never invested in the stock market. Same thing with Dogecoin. People are seeing how much money is being made with Dogecoin, so they're coming into the market. And he says this could have negative impacts, not only because people are going to lose a lot of money. If you don't time it right, you can lose a lot of money, all your money from Dogecoin. And that's going to not only scare some people from investing in crypto in general, but also it's going to cause a lot of issues with regulators, because he said with regulators, what's going to happen is that regulators are going to put a lot of different, they might start putting more regulations on crypto and investing in crypto to sort of protect people in general. He says that there's going to be all kinds of regulators running around and saying that when Dogecoin crashes, that's proof that crypto can't control itself. It needs to have the government step into place. And he says that's where we're going to run into some problems. He said it's going to be a big issue down the road, but he sees Dogecoin. He believes it's going to crash. He believes it's going to come back down because it's all around hype, all around attention. And right now there's a lot of people talking about Dogecoin, but as soon as that goes away, it's going to come crashing back down because long term, it can't be used for anything. It was just made as a joke. So if it can't be used for anything, at some point, people are going to want to put their money somewhere else. So he says you have to be careful. It is a bubble, and it is going to pop at some point. And I don't know if you've seen this, but Stateless Money, they just talked about launching an index token for Polkadot. This is a pretty big deal. They're doing this in partnership with ChainSafe. So it's in collaboration with ChainSafe. And essentially what it is it's going to be PINT, Polkadot Index Network Token, which is going to give shareholders exposure to the top projects in the Polkadot ecosystem. We don't know the exact projects that are going to be included, but it's going to just give you general exposure to the Polkadot ecosystem. And essentially what it's going to be like how they're going to decide which projects are part of it. Well, right now they said ChainSafe is going to be the primary developers. Stateless Money is going to focus on coordination efforts. There's going to be a council made up of 7 Polkadot ecosystem experts for governance, for picking, what is going to be included. And there's also going to be a constituent committee made up of 1 representative from each project with assets in the index. They already have spoken about a couple different projects, different assets that are going to be included in the index. 6, which include Michaela Network, Equilibrium, Hydra DX, Lightentree, Moonbeam, and Plasm. So those are some that have already been talked about being included. They're going to add more, but that's what they've already spoken about right now. We don't know an exact timeline and official launch date for PINT. However, there is a 4-phase roadmap, so we could expect to see this probably within the next 3 to 6 months, but there is no official timeline on this yet. But it is pretty exciting because it's going to be available to trade on decentralized exchanges when it's released. It's going to give you exposure to a bunch of different projects in the Polkadot ecosystem. So that's really going to make it so, you don't have to pick and choose your own. You could just have exposure to the general ecosystem, the general framework in general. And those of you who don't know, Polkadot is a very fast growing interoperable blockchain backed by Web3 Foundation, and it's seen a significant interest, significant rise in the last couple of months, about last couple year and a half, as developers, investors have started to hear about it, started to realize its potential. There are hundreds of projects under this ecosystem, so that is why they're starting this PINT, this index, to then take into account all the projects, and not all, but a lot of projects in the ecosystem. So this is exciting. We'll see what happens here. But that's really all I got for you guys today. Just a crypto heavy, crypto focused episode. Hope you enjoyed this. If you want to see clips, make sure to check out our clips channel, 2 to 3 minute clips on each topic I covered in this video. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you're having a great day. And if you are, please be sure to like the video. You can get 4 free stocks valued up to $1,600 when you download the Webull investing app. They have crypto trading on there, stock investing, everything you need to know. And hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.